According to the ageless wisdom, there are 7 planes of expression of which we are part, and which are part of us. For our purposes, these are represented here by the colours traditionally associated with them. They also have their Eastern names which have come down to us, but for now we are concerned more with what they are about. Each level has its own energy, and we draw on these energies to sustain us, and for different experiences during our incarnations.
After death, these various bodies that we have within us all the time, or which we are a part, enter into their various relative realities, and when their time is up, they also drop away like the physical body. And so there is the idea then of a progression through subtler and subtler realms of being, until we are left with simply the purest spiritual essence of the experience that we have had achieved in this physical life. And so there is, if you like, the drawing in, the reabsorption of the spiritual impulse of the human being back into those higher or finer states of reality from which we emerge. Now, through that transition, through those reabsorptions, we are conscious to a large extent, depending on our individual context, and we experience, and we can still grow, and we can still change. There is no death again. All is life. All is growing and understanding itself and knowing itself in the various levels of reality which we can experience.
Our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting. The soul that rises with us, our life star, hath had elsewhere its setting, and cometh from afar. Not in entire forgetfulness, and not in utter nakedness, but trailing clouds of glory do we come, from God who is our home. Heaven lies about us in our infancy. Shades of the prison house begin to close upon the growing boy. But he beholds the light, and whence it flows, he sees it in his joy. The youth, who daily farther from the east must travel, still as nature's priest, and by the vision splendid is on his way attended. At length the man perceives it die away, and fade into the common light of day.
So what does Theosophy tell us about the why of reincarnation?
Theosophy certainly tells you a lot about the purpose of life, the meaning of life, and about the processes that we experience. Instead of living in a world which is fundamentally random and chaotic, and therefore meaningless, Theosophy adds a completely new dimension to it, which says that all that we experience, whether it's pain, suffering, and so forth, has meaning. And from this meaning we can grow and develop, and therefore it adds to and enhances the whole process of spiritual development and understanding.
Everybody's different. Some people have used their lives well, other people haven't. Some people have done awful, cruel things to other people, borne false witness, and deprived them of their rights in all kinds of ways. Well, there's a sort of punishment that is visited on us according to all these things. The variables are almost infinite. There must be, everybody suffers or enjoys quite differently according to what they've put into life and their previous lives. And this life is a kind of balance of the book. You bring forward a debit or a credit balance according to what you've done before. If you bring forth a nice credit balance, well, you're very lucky. But you did it. The law is perfectly just. Whatever it is you suffer from now is nearly always and almost entirely your own fault.
The qualities that we need to experience in each personal life are largely determined by the law of cause and effect, karma. So all that happens to us, we are taught, is entirely of our own making. So out of our past personal lives, we have set in motion processes of cause and effect which lead to the circumstances that we experience in this life. So the qualities, nice or nasty, that I experience in this personality are the outcome of my previous actions in past lives. Also equally the circumstances in which I find myself. To some extent, I believe that we do choose the timing of our personal existences and the circumstances, but within that there is a broader law, a law of cause and effect, which says what must be. If you throw a pebble in a pond, the ripples go out, come what may. Once you've set a cause in motion, the results must come to fruition. You have some freedom, I believe, in the way in which those effects will come back to you. And indeed you will be judged, I think, on the willingness with which you meet the results of your past actions.
It isn't as simple as I say, I murder you, you murder me. It works in different ways. It's far more complex, because you can learn lessons in very many ways. If you, for example, killed a child in one life, surely if your child was killed in another life, that would teach you the lesson stronger than anything else.
The question must naturally arise, who or what decides our karmic fate?
The law decides, but decides entirely according to what you have done. The factors that decide it, primarily those that decide what sort of a person you are, because what sort of a person you are affects your environment. And the law of karma applies insofar as what you have done will determine the circumstances of your next life. Now that involves your parents. So to some extent you get the parents you have deserved by the karmic consequences of what you've done. The whole thing is magnificently worked out, and automatically. The effects of an act are inherent in the act itself. Nobody decides. The thing is working along all the time, cause and effect, at all levels of being. And there's no escaping it. No vicarious atonement, as we said before. No forgiveness of sins. Nobody carrying the can for you. All that we are and all that we do, we are responsible for. And that seems to me to be a law of perfect justice.
You can put off to tomorrow, but there are consequences in doing so. If you're unwilling to meet the results of causes that you set in motion, they tend to get more severe. You can see, similarities with this. I might say, well, I'll give up smoking, but I'm not prepared to do it today. I'll do it next week, next month, next year. Each day, each month, each year that you delay, the consequences of your action get more marked, more pronounced. In a year's time, you may regret that you didn't do it tomorrow, but nonetheless, the choice is yours. But there are consequences to be taken into account with delaying taking those actions.
It's understood that in all things we have free choice, and therefore the factors that lead up to our reincarnation are very much to do with the nature of the self, the choices it is going to make, the choices it has made, the things it needs to do to fulfill itself. This is wound up with the idea of karma, that those are things, those actions, those thoughts we have spawned ourselves have repercussions in the fabric of reality. So to a large extent we choose to come back. We are driven by those impulses of which we are constituted.
So why don't we remember our previous existences?
For most people it actually is a kindness not to have the memory of their previous lives, because what you first pick up quite often is the way you died, and there are some very painful deaths. And also you can get caught up in the glamour of a previous life. But after all, if you're Emperor of China in your last incarnation, you still have to get up and go to work tomorrow. So who you were or what you were previously is not really important. This is your only important life, because this is the one you're living now. You are what you have made yourself previously. And your next incarnations will depend on what you do with yourself this time, built on to all the other incarnations you've had.